Ready? Yes, let's go. I'd like to welcome everybody today and call today's meeting to order as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is with very deep heart I will announce of a passing of a very, very well-loved and respected student of the college over the weekend. And so I'd like to have a few moments of silence in memory. Thank you very much. I'd like to recite Dodge City Community College mission statement. Dodge City Community College will provide opportunities for high-quality learning and will enhance community and personal development in a student-centered environment. Next up, I'd like to ask if there's any remarks from the audience. Seeing none, we'll move to approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, you want both meetings?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
will
two
move.
sets of minutes to approve.
Yeah.
Second?
Just so I'm clear, is that approval of both sets, Florstein?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up will be the completion of the consent agenda.
I'd like to have two items removed from that. Items B, 2, and 3 for discussion information.
Could you say that again?
I'd like items B, 2, and 3. I'd like some more information on those.
B is in boy.
Boy, 2
Two.
and 3. And 3.
3. Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the agendas.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions noted.
Okay. Is there a second? Carried. All right. Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Opposed, same sign. Okay. All right. Next up, we'll move to the reports to the board, and first up will be the Student Government Association.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Mr. Chairperson, and President Nolte. Tonight we start off with Student Nursing Association. They currently finished doing a t-shirt fundraiser and are preparing to do another fundraiser by selling raffle tickets for a chance to win prizes. Phi Theta Kappa is currently coming up with new fundraiser ideas to help fund their trip to the PTK International Convention that will take place in April. Student Government Association has planned more student activities for the remaining of the semester. This Thursday, they will be hosting a student game night, bingo night, for all of the students to participate in for a chance to win prizes. Last week, they handed out baggies to commemorate Black History Month as well as the remaining of this week. International Club is new this year, and they are a combination of Halo and Latino leaders from last year. Their president is Linda Armendariz. If you could please stand up. And this is their report. They currently have 27 members. 22 out of the 27 are active members, meaning they have participated in at least 2 or more events or meetings this semester. They have 5 more students than last semester. Also, 10 more students have become active members. International Club is currently teaching a Spanish class for community members every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. in Dr. Lemkuhler's conference room to teach these classes. About 11 club members have participated in this fundraiser. This has been the biggest fundraiser the club has done by raising close to $2,000. They are using the funds from teaching the Spanish classes to fundraise and to sponsor the Collegiate Leadership Development Program. 2 weeks ago, they had their first DC3 Collegiate Leadership Development Program. This leadership program is open to all DC3 students. 22 DC3 students are currently taking advantage of this great opportunity. 18 out of 22 DC3 students are involved in International Club who are members, and 4 are not part of the club. DC3 International Club had their second fundraiser this past weekend, and they did a car wash and raised $380. And I would like to say thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have the Academic Tutor of the Month Award.
Good evening. Tonight we are here to recognize Bernard Alvarenga. He knew I wasn't going to get his name right, but he said that was okay. So Bernard is from Brazil, and he tutors in the ASC in math. And his parents are Richard and Renata Alvarenga. His major is business, and he currently is holding a 4.0 GPA. He is a freshman. He is one of just 2 tutors that I'll have returning next semester or next fall. So I want to hold on to him really tight. But he is an exceptional tutor for us. He really looks to find new ways to help students grasp the concepts. Math can be a hard subject, and he really is good at finding how to reach students. When he doesn't have appointments, he comes up to the front and asks if there's anything that he can do, or if there's 2 students sitting around that need help. So I really appreciate him. He is also a member of our soccer team. So we would like to congratulate Bernard for the February Tutor of the Month.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have the Phi Theta Kappa Student of the Month Award.
I actually have 2 this month.
because I wasn't here last month, so I have two of them. I have Rose Duong and Itzel Moya Perez, both of them. Rose is the daughter of Dao Duong Nam and Kong Duong. I hope that's somewhat close. Okay. And her major is biology, although Rose, as probably you know, is just an amazing artist also, so she's just multi-talented. She plans to transfer to the University of Texas. She's president of the art club. She is a historian of PTK. She's captain of the Quiz Bowl team. And she's also a peer tutor. I think she's been working pretty hard lately doing that, from what I've heard. Itzel is the daughter of Jose and Sofia Moya. She is planning to major in social work, and she is planning to transfer to Fort Hays in the fall. And if you didn't see, Itzel was also one of our winners of the All Kansas Academic Team. And she was awarded 2 weeks ago, last week? I don't know. It's all running together for you. Recently, very recently. And that's a very huge honor. So she's also the activities chair on the SGA board. She's been on the President's Honor Roll for the past 3 semesters. And I already told you that part. So those are our winners for tonight. For January 2nd.
We'll do one at a time.
Sorry.
I should have the sound. I think so. That works.
Long time no see. Who do you work for?
I don't know.
Hey. Good job.
Wait 15 minutes.
Next up, we'll start with the trustee reports. So Trustee Malone, we'll start with you.
The only thing I have to report, I attended the National Legislative Summit in Washington, D.C. about 2 weeks ago. Very inspiring. Noah Brown, the Executive Director of ACCT, is an amazing individual, and if you ever get a chance to hear him speak about education, it's worthwhile. Attended the new Trustee Academy. Always learned something from that, and also a legal session. No, I'll supply Glenn with some information I received.
That's all. Thank you. Ms. Hampton?
I wanted to compliment the student government on all their activities. I think that's especially commendable, and the fact that they are using their talents to teach Spanish, and I really want them to know how much we appreciate that. That's very special, and for all the other things they're doing. Also to the PTK students who were recognized in Topeka, and especially to me important, and I see that Dr. Nolde has yesterday's paper with STEM right on the front page.
I have it.
And there it is. And that is one of my special interests because, as I've said before, United States has let, excuse me, has let our country get behind in the STEM courses. And I really am interested that we're beginning to see more in the papers. It's been in the Wall Street Journal and in the Hutch paper and the Dodge City paper that people are getting aware that we need to pay more attention to the STEM courses. So I was pleased about that. I'm pleased too with the faculty report about all the things that are happening in the STEM department here. And if you remember, we had 2 young ladies that were at the annual conference in Phoenix just earlier this year. And in addition to two who are presenting in Washington DC conference. So we should really be proud that we are taking a lead in that field. Let me see. I wanted also to say I was pleased that last Saturday the college and some of the professors sponsored a public forum on DACA. I came to that and was interested that there were several people here and a lot of questions were asked. So our professors Clayton and Estrella were part of that along with the city assistant manager, so appreciated that. And also last Saturday night the chamber banquet was rewarding because got to visit quite a lot with representative from Wichita State and appreciated that opportunity, and also Senator Moran's young intern, which was rewarding too. So maybe there's more, but that's enough for now.
I wanted to speak to about the DACA meeting. I was so pleased that it was here on campus. I was so pleased that Mike Feldman was willing to do that, and for our professors to do that, because we need to be at the forefront of issues of fairness and parity. And so I was very proud of the college. Florence Jean took my thunder, but that's nothing new after being friends for 50 years.
We can give and take.
We can. We can.
Just wonder if everybody had a chance to see our new bus parked out back. I had a chance to step inside. It looks like it's in very good condition. So that was a good purchase. So I'll defer other comments to Trustee Presley.
I do not have a whole lot of new things to report other than, again, I think I said it last month, you should all still wash your hands a lot and stay away from people coughing. It's my public service announcement.
Okay, I have quite a little bit. First of all, I was able to attend the banquet with the Phi Delta Kappa, or the Phi Theta Kappa honorees, and what an honor to be among all those talented, smart students. And I got tickled because I felt like ours far exceeded everybody else's in the college. It felt like a mother hen there. But after they walked across the stage and we were able to visit, it was like watching bees on honey coming over to our students from the other from four-year colleges. Hayes came over and they all had their pins and they were wanting Itzel and Iram to, come talk to us. So we were we were a commodity that people were wanting to buy into, and I felt very proud of our college for offering that up to the public. I went to the meeting of the KACCT for our chairman, and they're looking at changing that banquet of the PTK to probably March 7th next year. It's been on Valentine's Day, and apparently several gentlemen get in trouble for leaving every year on Valentine's Day. They're going to also maybe invite tech programs to nominate a couple of students, and then they'll have to find a larger venue to have this in. Linda Funn was ill that day, so she wasn't able to be there with us, but Julie did a nice job. From the reports in our meeting, our sessions meeting, 7 colleges attended the legislative summit that Terry went to, and they thought about 25 people attended, and they questioned whether or not they wanted to continue doing this legislative summit in the future or hold it at a different time, because legislators weren't really there and meeting with people like they wanted, and they thought maybe we could do something more locally with our legislators. They discussed higher ed, and they had a big turnout at the higher ed meeting in January, so they thought that was very successful. There was no lobby report. They gave a financial report. I have a copy if anyone would like to have a copy of it. And I was proud of our homecoming king and queen. I always like seeing that in the newspaper. And I appreciate our chiropractor, Phillips Chiropractic, for helping us out with some equipment. That always makes me feel good when our community gets involved with it, so I appreciate that.
I get a chance to visit with one of the tutors nearly every day, and it's a great program. The young lady is super proud of being here at the college and super proud of being a tutor, and I think they do such a great job. Also had a chance to visit with a few other students and faculty members, and just learning more and more about the college as time goes by. So it's been a rewarding experience so far, and still the learning curve is still going up. So.
Chairman Harshberg, I wanted to add something else. Last night I was able to attend, it was a forum for the schools for fair funding. John Robb, one of the two lead attorneys from Newton in that case. I wanted first of all to congratulate 443 for being leaders for, I think, almost 30 years now, of trying to obtain fair and adequate funding for Dodge City schools and all schools in Kansas. But and along with him were three really nice ladies that traveled all the way from Andover, Goddard, and Wichita. And they volunteer their time advocating, trying to get people to advocate to get the legislators to comply with the Supreme Court order. Unfortunately, they believe that the legislature is not going to do that this session, so we're going to probably have a constitutional crisis on our hands. So if you could talk to your legislators, get involved in lobbying for the legislature to do what's right for all the kids in Kansas, I would encourage you to do so. You could probably get a lot more information about this from either Superintendent Dirksen or President Killian of the school board. But be aware that just because the Supreme Court told them that they need to comply with the Constitution is no guarantee that our legislators are going to do it.
Okay. We'll move on to the President's report. So, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to move away, Mr. Mike. And I'm going to start it with Dr. Searcy. I'm going to let you give your report first. It was very interesting and very good report there that you gave me the other day, so I wanted you to have the first shot at it.
All right, that's good enough. We're gonna wait for this chart to come up. We gotta see this chart. We did some digging through K-Wars, a community college data book, and the new one just came out this month for 2018. And there's some interesting facts and figures in there, some of which you ought to know, some of which are rather interesting and probably something you might want to share with some people. There's a lot of information in this table. This lowest highest ranking, the lowest is on top of the mill levy and the tuition and fees, and this is combined tuition and fees. And you'll see Dodge City is the lowest in district total tuition and fees in the state of Kansas. And you know, there's a range there, and actually when we get to the next page and later on I'll come back with what the range is and some of these figures. But just so you can see them, and you can pick out some of your favorites there and see how much they are. One thing I find interesting is Colby is the most expensive, and you'll see why in a little bit why I think it's interesting. Colby's the most expensive in district tuition and fees, but it's kind of interesting down there. When you go over to the out of district column, we do charge quite a bit more for out of district, and we're up kind of in the run of the pack. We're a little bit below the average, I think, although that's on the next slide, but so we're kind of in that range. So we do charge more out of district. International, I guess, I don't know what many of it, we obviously chose to keep that fairly low, partly to attract some international students. We don't have that many. We kind of like them in the mix. So, and not too many of them, so I don't really think that impacts our bottom line a whole heck of a lot, but maybe a little bit. Online, we're one of the more expensive. We actually do charge a pretty good price, but we're far from the most expensive, I will tell you that. And our mill levy is, you'll notice it's a little towards the bottom, which means we're a little higher on the mill levy, which is how much they charge per 1,000 of evaluation of real estate. But when you look at the next slide, go ahead and go to the next slide there, Mike. You can see, like, if you go on the mill levy, we're 32.52.9, And it goes all the way from 9.473, and I can tell you that's Johnson County. Mainly because they've got a huge tax base to draw from, so they have a very low rate. All the way up to 46, that 46,781 is actually Colby. So now they have the highest in-district tuition, they've got the highest mill levy. So I don't know how they get away with that, but it must be nice. But anyway, the average is about 29, so we're a little over the average on our mill levy. The median is 29, we're just a little over the median. And if you look, and you can see the tuitions there, ours are 71. We're 71. There's some very near us. There's a lot up to about 90 or so. And the average is 96 and change. Out of district, we're 117. The average is 140. So we're below average on the out of district, but not by a lot. And you can see that 268. That 268, believe it or not, Johnson County. They don't care whether if anyone comes in from out of county at all. They apparently just are happy to charge whatever that traffic will bear. And international varies quite a bit. We're, like I say, we're one of the lower, but not the lowest. Lowest is 109. And the online numbers are there too. So anyway, this went out in the board packet, didn't it? These two charts. So if you ever want to look at them, you can look back at them. But it does show where we are, both mill levy and tuition in comparison to other colleges. Good information for you to have when you deal with the public who sometimes don't know what goes on elsewhere. And if anybody's interested, there's a whole lot of data up there in that data book. And it's freely available on the web. You just go to kansasregents.org and look under data and start poking around. You can find all kinds of stuff in there. And if you're ever interested in it, I can show you where it is, but you can probably find it yourself.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Good job. At your table, you'll see an ACE book. It's lots of information, President's book, and it kind of tells you a little bit about it's American Council on Education. In the book, it's going to tell you that there's an article out that presidents are grayer and a little bit older. So that's what it's going to tell you. We have. I think Harvard just brought in their new president. I think he's in his early 70s. So presidents are, like I say, getting a little older and a little grayer. So that's interesting, but it's good reading to find out where everybody is. And AC is obviously our leader in higher education and they do a lot of great things, and they do surveys, and then also they have great meetings for us. What I'd like to do today, and I typically do this, is give the goals that I have each year, and I've been doing that for this will be my third year to do this, but kind of go through the goals and just kind of, as far as information for you, just kind of go through that. And as you can see, the first one is to improve stability on campus and housing, security, and campus appearance. And I want to say that our housing is probably, I was talking to Jacob earlier today, and our housing probably is the nicest in the whole state of all the 19 community colleges. And I'm very proud of what we have. I think we just got through renovating Sheldon Hall, and it's very attractive. It looks as good as some of the new ones. And so we've done a good job in our housing, and I think our students are really appreciative of that. Along with that, obviously, is our security. 3 years ago, I was concerned about our security, and we've really ramped it up, I think. We also have a discipline officer that takes care of problems on campus, and very concerned about what's going on in this whole world, with security and campus security. And I just don't want anything to happen to this campus like it has in other campuses. And so we're very serious about our security and very serious about what's going on in the world. And we do a lot of making sure things are safe for our students. And, also, we're also concerned about sexual harassment. We want to make sure that we are taking that very seriously. So I know our security, as well as student services and others, are very good at what they're doing, very astute. And our faculty and staff are very good too. So I'm proud of what we do in that respect. Campus appearance. Campus appearance is really looking good. I know it's a dark day in It really is pretty today, though, by the way. Things are a little bit brown, but they'll come back green. And we have a very, very attractive campus, and our campus is very attractive and kept very well. And I appreciate our grounds crew as well as our custodians and everyone. And Russ, I really appreciate all that you guys do. And Ramona, it's really a pretty campus, and y'all done a great job. Also want to talk a little bit about this. Number 2 is improve the ratio of full-time. I'm very concerned about full-time faculty in the areas with demand and high interest, employ other staff as may be needed, and fund new initiatives to meet college enrollment goals. Just like y'all were talking about. And Scott, thank you this is a really, really good article. I want to give him a hand, everybody. That doesn't happen very often. You did an outstanding job on that, and I do appreciate that. And STEM is important. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And those are very, very important things for the future for our students. And if you major in those areas, you're going to always have a job. And that's what there's a lot of jobs out there that are cyclical. This is not one of those. Science, technology, engineering, and math are very, very important. And I want us to also be looking at some of our new programs. I want us to start working on some of those things. I know I got an email from Terry the other day about welding. I want us to consider, we've had a couple of industrial people in to talk about that, and so I want us to, I think in March we're going to have a report on welding, and I think that's very important. Healthcare, my goodness, healthcare. We really need to ramp up our healthcare. We have great nursing. By the way, our nursing program has gone from 26th to 6th. Has a 96% pass rate now on the NCLEX, and is doing a really good job. And I'm really proud of our nursing program. Another area that we need to look at is ag. We are a beef producing community, and there's opportunities for us out there, and people are talking about that and some of the things we need to be doing. Another program that I know that K-State and others are getting involved in, and I'm going to get a call into them, is fixed wing. College presidents are getting grayer, but if you've ever been on a plane now, the pilots are getting grayer, and so there's a real need for pilots, and I think that's a real good opportunity for us to work with the airport and things like that. Develop a plan to increase funds garnered by the Dodge City Community College Foundation. This I'm really, really proud of. I want you to know it was a cost savings measure that we went through. And at one time, the college spent $100,000, plus that person was able to get a percentage of what the funds they raised. The foundation went ahead and is paying for Chris to go ahead and be our director. So the foundation is paying for that. And I want to compliment her as well as Jacob and Greg Goff and Jared for all the work they're doing. And I can promise you they're doing a lot of good things out there. And we're growing that program, and monies are coming in, and I'm proud of what they do, and it's a good PR move. So it is good what they're doing. Continue to develop an organizational chart that better aligns the college for future growth and accountability. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I've got the chart. What I'm trying to do is compress our administration, make it smaller, and so we have some things that we can be doing on that. And so that's what we're working on. Continue to develop a strategic plan, facilities master plan to lead DCC for the next 5 years. And I know Scott, you and I and others, and I know the board worked on it with Lisa Armour at the workshop, and so we've got those results, and so we'll continue working on our strategic plan as well as working on our facilities plan. I'm not concerned about as much about our new buildings. I'm more concerned about deferred maintenance. I think there's a real need out there for deferred maintenance, and I see some things going on that need to happen. And like your home, you've got to take care of that, and so that's very, very important. Continue to work with the HLC reaffirmation process. I think Scott just got a note or a message from HLC, and they're looking forward to working with us, and you'll hear more about that. And I know we're going to be working with faculty and staff on that, and hopefully all our we'll do a good job hopefully in that respect. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Think? Okay, good. Glad to hear that. Continue to develop and maintain relationships with county, city, agencies, business, industry, and especially the school district. And once a month, I meet with a leader, each one of these leaders. We have a breakfast including the hospital and others. And it's a really good meeting when we talk about what's going on in the community and how we can grow the community. And so that's a really important thing for us to do. Number 8 is to assess in better communication across campus and to better inform potential problems. And I think Andrea's doing a really good job, and I'm really proud of the things that she and Justin are doing. Something that I probably will propose to you later on is I do think we probably need to have a staff writer. I think that's important for us to look at that position, possibly getting more information out to the community as well as to the board and to faculty and staff, making sure that we get the information out there. To improve business process, generate greater efficiency and customer satisfaction. You'll be hearing a lot about this because our IT system is in need of work. It hasn't been updated in a while. And some of the reports that you're getting are basically hand done, and Veda and I and others have talked about it, Adam and Bev, and so we'll make sure that we get these. We're going to be working on our IT system. That's kind of like everything else. You got to work on your, you got to work on your IT system. So it's very important. Then the last one is, well, let's see, is to develop a succession plan for the administration, and that's something that we're looking at doing. I want to make sure that when some of us retire here or leave this institution, there's other people to take our positions. It's nice to have. Most colleges and universities have a succession plan, and that's important for us to have that so we can be able to, so you'll be able to know what to do next. That's my goals for this year. Thank you very much. Sorry my report was long.
Okay. Thank you, President Nolte. On F, other reports, Vice President Tamon had some more additional information for us on the default rate. So,
thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Tamon.
Chairman. Good evening, trustees. You have a paper that was added right in front of you, and this is added at the 11th hour, just today. We just got an email, our financial aid staff this morning, and it's our preliminary default rate, and it's 13.2. So we were very, very happy to hear that number. This is preliminary. It usually doesn't change that much. We have an opportunity to look at the information that they have, make any corrections, but we'll get the final rate in September. September 1 is when they're supposed to send us the final. But there are a lot of colleges or community colleges in the nation, I think, that would love to have the 13.2. You recall we got a little concerned when it creeped up to 17.4, and our threshold amount where we get put under some sanctions is at 23. So we're happy to be 10 below that, and we want to continue that and continue to work with our students in education. And you approved a contract at a recent board meeting with a company that will help us do that. So we just wanted to give you some good news, and we just got it today, so we added it for a brief report. We'll bring the final rate back to you at the September board meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Tamon. Okay, now board action items. First up, the evaluation instrument for the president's evaluation. We had a pretty good discussion last meeting about developing one, but due to the sake of time and getting one in play, I thought that we had better look at the one that was provided to us at the presentation from Dr. Hockaday, and I would ask that trustees consider doing this as suggested here, having it turned back in 2 weeks, so we can get on the ground floor of the evaluation process for for the president, and then the intention is still to hold the workshops and to develop one that better suits us. But I thought this would be a great start to get us doing the process and figuring out what areas that we would like to evaluate in. So with that, I would open the floor for any discussion.
It doesn't matter what we're looking at, it's a guideline. And we can, tweak it however we want to, but as we're going through this, we'll be thinking about the suggestions, and all kinds of things will probably come in
Exactly.
as we think and add to it ourselves.
Chairman Harshberger, you're actually we're talking about actually filling us out prior without meeting?
Without what?
Without meeting to discuss our, the evaluation report itself?
Yes.
It seems to me that the only reason we're doing that is because we're having a visit from the Higher Learning Commission. We have delayed evaluating the president for 3 years or 2 years, and I think they would appreciate us perhaps doing it right rather than just marking some boxes and not having any discussion about that prior to or while we're doing it. We have three completely new members, and one's only been on less than a year. There's a lot of things we need to talk about the evaluation, and I think HLC would receive it better if we actually said we're working on it and we have a schedule. And I think that they would receive that better than just a quick evaluation without discussion. And I like the ACCT form that Trustee Ramsauer provided. I think that's a better form than the Hockaday one. But
I felt kind of blindsided by this because we agreed unanimously at our last meeting that we would have 1 or 2 work sessions to develop a instrument for evaluation. And I believe Chairman Harshberger, you're the one who suggested we have 1 or 2. And the motion passed unanimously, no nays. And here we are today, and with the evaluation in front of us that we want back in 2 weeks. And I thought we were going to get together and develop an instrument that fit us best. So the timeline was set in the motion that we would try to have something done by the 1st of April. So far, I haven't been to any work sessions that haven't heard it being called.
Could we use this as a tool to get started? Like, I don't have a problem with filling it out and then have it in front of us. Look at these other, I even filled out our trustee one, just to see what it would look like for me and what I need to work on. Use this as a starting point, and then if we're all like on management style, have something different, we know management style is going to be something we need more emphasis on. If we're all good on word information and receiving it, well, all right, we don't need a big one on this one. And kind of build from this, it would give us a start.
That was my point,
I'm sorry.
that this is where you start.
Well, my question, Trustee Ramsauer, is how on earth would any of the 3 new trustees have any idea about how to evaluate the president at this point? I mean, and it's not their doing, and I think HLC would understand that. But you just can't throw a dart, at the board and see where it sticks without having some background information. And I think that's what we decided on the last time would be the best procedure, is to actually meet and discuss the president's, just like tonight, we found some things, some ideas. But I think that's what we need to do if we're actually going to evaluate them. And I think it's obviously the 3 new trustees are at a complete disadvantage, certainly at the start.
I'd probably spend a total of 10 minutes with Dr. Nolte. since I got on the board, face-to-face time, other than in this meeting. And I don't know his leadership styles or how he gets along with faculty or anything else. I'd be at a loss to start evaluating him on the system here that's in front of us.
How would that differ if we spent the time by April to develop another one?
Well, I would hope we would have a couple of work sessions and get to know Dr. Nolte better, be able to ask him about his leadership style, where he thinks the campus ought to go. I think the information you gave us today was very helpful. You know, I think he's got some hopes and thoughts about moving forward. But before tonight, I have no idea where he wants to go, what he wants to do, how he wants to do it.
Well, regardless of where you go, the new trustees will always be somewhat of as a deficit as you're learning as, you know, what is going on. So I understand what you're saying there, but this was intended to be a starting point to help us think about how we want to start evaluating, so we have better information to construct a document that better suits us. So it's a good starting point.
Once
So-
we do it, isn't it a finished point?
No, because we're going to develop one for all of the plans.
Once we evaluate him, isn't it the evaluation
We
for
can
right
evaluate
now?
anytime we want to.
Well, I don't know that you could do that, but I think his contract calls for an annual evaluation.
Mhm.
So we probably, if we evaluate him now in this instrument, probably be another year before we would evaluate him again.
We could, excuse me, we could set a time, for instance, contract time. Might be a time for evaluation. And that would be in October. And maybe, however, we need to have something for HLC.
Well, I don't know that it's even fair for him to be in a constant state of evaluation from his board. You know, something ought to be done once a year, and he gets direction from us, and we work together to accomplish the goals that the college needs to accomplish. If we do it now and 6 months from now, 6 months from then, I don't, you know.
Well, it's, well, Jeremy, excuse me.
Just as a point of clarification, I think, I get the impression we all have kind of a mixed view of what we would anticipate these workshops or work points and times to be. And so maybe we can define that a little bit better, because I think that will help me have a better understanding of what we're all really shooting for here. If we're having a workshop to sit down and discuss a instrument, a tool, a form to fill out to review the president, I don't know, that's going to probably take 2 meetings. I would hope that we can accomplish that and sit and discuss. Now, if we're utilizing the workshop as an opportunity to discuss the points, posture them to Dr. Nolte, and have him respond and answer, well, that's a whole different deal, and absolutely that's going to take multiple times. So I guess I just asked that question to everybody: what would their expectation of these workshops be, so that we have a clear? Because like I said, I have a, when we said a workshop to discuss a tool, well, that sounded like a workshop to discuss a tool, but I kind of get the impression that we're hoping to enlighten and educate all of us, and particularly the new board members, in Dr. Nolte's leadership styles and his goals and strategies and those things. So what's all your guys' thoughts, I guess?
Well, from my viewpoint, we can use either one of these forms. I prefer the one, but it really will get us to where I think we should be, is that in a meeting discussing with Dr. Nolte his whatever it is, leadership, I mean, what all these things are. The last 2 years, I haven't had that opportunity really at all, because we haven't evaluated them. So I think it would be very helpful if we would pick a form tonight and then have some work sessions to find out what it is we need to know from our president. And of course, give him some ideas of what we're thinking, which we haven't done.
Well, so I'm not new, I am newly elected, but I served interim for a while, so I took the opportunity to go back and review the minutes from the past year. We'll go back to April 15, 2017. And in the minutes, it says trustee Malone will provide a draft president evaluation for the May 2017 meeting. So we've had a year to do this, and I've seen no instrument.
Well,
So it seems like.
let me
excuse me?
correct you just a second.
I'm speaking, don't interrupt me, please.
I'll finish correcting you later.
I'm reading out the minutes.
I know you are.
And so it seems like something needs to get going here. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, Chairman Reeves told me not to bother, all right? I gave him the ACCT form. He was the one that would have to call the meeting to have the evaluation. It hadn't been done for 2 years. So all I'm saying, Chairman, is that we don't need to do this just for HLC to say that we've done something. We ought to do it right. I think we owe that to Dr. Nolte. I think we owe it to the board that we know what the president is thinking, so we can give him ideas or evaluate whether we agree with his thought process. We owe that to him. An evaluation with a couple of numbers behind it does nobody any good. Doesn't do the college any good. Doesn't do Dr. Nolte any good. Doesn't do the board any good. And I think HLC recognizes that. This isn't their first rodeo.
Okay. But like I said before, I think this is a good starting point, and, you know, it hasn't been done, the ball's been dropped for whatever reason, and we're not gonna do that. So we're gonna do the things that we're charged to do, and nothing has changed other than if we decide to do an evaluation now to get us started, which I think that is our job to do.
Well, I would support using some instrument, this one, but I definitely think we need a couple of work sessions, especially as a new trustee. I want some time to really hear from Dr. Nolte, what he thinks, the philosophies behind that. I want to be as forthright, honest, straightforward, and listen closely to what he's telling me. I want to learn too. And I think this would be a great opportunity, a few hours, a couple of work sessions, in learning a lot about the college and understanding what direction we're going. So I would support the work sessions with Dr. Nolte's presence, being able to have an open discussion about his goals for the college. That's where I'm coming from, Gary. Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
That's fine. I totally agree, and what we decided on last month, not deviating from. We definitely need to do that. It would serve us all well to hear that, and it would help us better know how we want to evaluate. I thought this would help us too to get it started, and we have something in place that has been not happening for a while, and it's time we start doing what we're charged to do.
This is not what we decided to do last month. I thought we were going to get a number of instruments, have a work session, get some input from all of us to decide which one or which several to combine to develop an instrument of our own. And I feel like I haven't had any input on it, and I thought we were all going to have some input. And here we are with wanting to approve this instrument tonight, and none of us had any input except maybe you.
Like I just told Trustee Koblick, that hasn't changed. That process has not changed. We're still going to have to do everything you just said, Dan.
Well, it has changed because once we do the evaluation, that's not a starting point. That evaluation is done. It's ended. That's an ending point. Once you've done the evaluation is over. And once you've summarized the evaluation, it really is over. You've done the evaluation, you've summarized the evaluation. That is the evaluation for this year.
Those are going to be topics on which you evaluated him on. We are going to go through a process of developing another one, which will be different topics. It's a starting point to get the juices flowing.
But that was what was promised last month, that we were going to do that, and now we're going to use this evaluation form, and now the next promise is we'll get together and we'll work out another evaluation form for the next evaluation. And after the ball was dropped from last month to this month, how do I know that's going to happen? How do I know that I'm gonna be asked for any input on the evaluation form when I was told I would get to have some input and I haven't had any?
I want to ask a question. I'm trying to put this all together. Does it seem that what we really want to do is have some idea about what we're going to do as an evaluation, come together and put together an evaluation, have the evaluation when we come together? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would like to see a number of evaluations to see what they look like, who's used them, what the outcome has been, have they had a satisfactory outcome with those evaluations. There's more out there than just this.
Well, do
You know?
you want to add to this? Add your own
I would
questions
like
to
I would
this?
like to see some more evaluations so that we can look, so we can decide what instrument will do us best, maybe a combination of two. But, you know, if things are gonna be decided, things that we have discussed, that we were going to discuss in a workshop, and then those things are decided without 6 of us having input, then if that's the way it's gonna be, there's no reason for anybody to be on this board but one person.
Ms. Ramsara?
I think that the direction we're going down, if we do that, we're going to be doing this a year from now, and that's why I'm afraid you haven't had an evaluation. Nobody can get together on anything. And if we come together 2 or 3 times and everybody brings something, like I've looked up, we're all gonna sit and hash out the very same points. We've got, or at least 2 really good, I mean, this one's from the main people, and this one's from the gentleman that did our in-service, and he goes all over the country doing evaluations. We've got 2 really good ones. I don't want to bring in 17 and look at the same ones
I don't
and
either,
pull
but-
out one.
But I'd like to bring in more than one.
Well, you do
Well-
that, and then we'll just look at these 2. But I think we're on a wheel. Everybody's wheel's gonna look the same at the final, and we're spinning. And
So
we'll
the-
keep spinning.
I think the point, and to come back to my question earlier, we can decide tonight, we can have an executive session, we can discuss that tool, and we can pick one of the tools, we can all pull Google up and pull up 14 of them tonight if we want to, and we can do that. And we should, and just get it done. And then, but the point is not the piece of paper. I mean, we can all hand us
Yes.
Xerox paper. You give me a blank piece of paper, I don't need that. I can write down, and we can all write. We're all very capable of it. So let's figure out which one we want to work in, how we want to do that. And what I'm getting, and my impression is that regardless of what piece of paper we decide to write on, when are we going to actually enact that? Which I think begs the question, then when will the new trustees feel comfortable? And what would help all of us get to that point of comfort to evaluate Dr. Nolte in a timely fashion, but in an appropriate fashion? That is where I would hope that the work sessions would come in to allow that question and answer time with Dr. Nolte to make more presentations, just like you did tonight, and I appreciate that, sir. To then be able to do that. Because we can come up with a tool tonight, we can come up with a tool in a month from now, or 2 weeks from now, whenever. We've got to figure out when are we going to have these meetings to get everybody up to speed with this gentleman, and then what timeline are we going to put him on? Florentine alluded to the contract time of the year in the fall. Is 6 months from now till then going to be enough, or what that? But we need to define it. I think that if we're going to opt with that route, then we need to define it. We need to decide when are we going to do that. So that we put a time on ourselves so that we're not, again, having this discussion a year from now again.
I think it's really, it's a shame that we're spending all this time trying to decide what to write on a piece of paper. And I know it's important, and we have to do it because we are obligated to the president to do that. I don't know why we can't just add whatever, why can't you just add whatever you want to add to these questions?
I haven't even seen the second evaluation instrument yet.
Pardon?
I've just seen one. Kathy's got one.
Oh,
here,
but Kathy had one from somewhere
I haven't
else.
seen it.
But why does it
Right now.
matter? Can't you just add what you want to put on there? Do you need somebody that suggests what you should think about?
Yes, I think so.
Oh,
Well,
I'm not familiar with what president of college, what his duties really are yet. I've only been on the board for 1 month. And although I'm very familiar what a superintendent of schools does, because I spent 35 years in that system and 6 more years as president of the board, no idea, they're surely not the same job.
did you evaluate the superintendent?
Absolutely, every year.
Where's the form you used for that?
Well, I can probably get a copy of it from the superintendent's office. I don't have a copy myself, but every board member got one every year, filled it out.
And you didn't argue about what the form said, you just filled it out?
No, because it's one that we had used for years, had been used for years.
I don't see
But
why
you,
there's a problem.
but you haven't used one at all. You
Yeah.
haven't bothered to use one at all, so we have nothing to go
So
on.
that's it, that's what we can do now, just write down.
Okay, so what you want to do is fill out one of these, I
It's
don't care
just
which
the
one,
guideline.
just throw one at me. And then you want to then do it again in October, is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying what time we should do it, I just suggested maybe that was a time.
I think Dr. Presley, has made the point that, when we decide on a form, and I don't think it's that important because they generally talk about things, and what's important is meeting as a board with the president to evaluate him based upon his thoughts and desires and ideas and vision. That's what we haven't done, that's what we need to do, and the only way so we can't fill out a form today and just start circling numbers and hand it in and tell HLC we've done a good job. That's impossible. Why don't we pick a form and then set some dates to have the evaluation in a work session, and then we can have back and forth and discuss like we should, and then Dr. Nolte will know where the majority of the board is coming from.
Okay, kind of going back to Trustees Ramsar's comments and, the wheel, and when I read this, it's been in the works now for over a year. And then when I got to thinking about the timeline of what we decided to do last month, it could take us months to come up with an instrument of what you just said. And so I've got 4 different evaluations here. This one came to us from Dr. Hockaday, which has been used to evaluate many college presidents. So that's why I decided this would be a good tool for us to start with. It's been used many times in many organizations. I thought it would be good for us to start with this for the reason that I've already articulated. And I do not know why the ball was dropped last time. We're not going to drop it now. We're going to do what we need to do. And then we will develop our own evaluation as we talked about last month.
Okay. I do want you to know that as 6 years on the board, that the most important part of this evaluation, all of you should know on this board, is not those numbers. It's the comment section. That's what Dr. Nolte could take and use to improve his job, doing the job here. And so if you're just going to write down numbers and you're not going to put any comments, you're not doing him any favors.
I agree, and I have performed many, many CEO evaluations over the years. So I would entertain the motion.
All right, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Can you all enlighten me as to HLC's stance on this? Have you discussed it with them? Or is there a timeline, or what is their expectation? And I'm probably asking an unfair question, but it's,
They expect you to evaluate him. And they expect to evaluate them in accordance with your policy, and since you said annually, that kind of tells you what their expectations are, probably more than anything.
Sure. Okay. So, I'll throw out, again, for conversation, but we take this, we can rename it, we can take evaluation off the top of it and use it as the questionnaire of the president. We don't put numbers on it, we don't rank it, but we use it as our starting point of, in a feeding point for our minds to say, okay, here's the ideas, or here's some of the things that are asked of a lot of college presidents. What questions do I have to help me answer said questions, and or what other questions is this prompt? We try to submit that within the next 2 weeks based on that timeline. And our next board meeting, Carla can compile that information hopefully as best, that's a short timeline, Carla, so I apologize for that. But we can start an executive session then at our next meeting to discuss what information was gleaned from that, and then hopefully during that executive session come with some questions, being the most pertinent possibly that we want to discuss with Dr. Nolte, and then at that time really utilize that executive session as our point to start to ask him some of the most urgent and emergent, and then give him the guidance into work session 1A, 1B, 1C, or however far they go, to get through the rest of the evaluation questions. And then at some point during those work sessions, we'll obviously need to discuss when our official evaluation timeline is. That way it is not, we are working through the process, hopefully in respect to HLC and in respect to all of us, and all of us getting up to speed and educated on Dr. Nolte's performance. That's just a general statement, not really a motion, because
I like your rationale and I like your timeline. I think that's exactly what we should do, so.
Okay, so I'll make that as a motion then, if anybody wants a second, if I can.
I bet Carla got it all.
Parliamentarians,
Get out of
please
there.
correct.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the motion. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I would like to see you
roll the
restate.
camera back.
Can you roll that back?
Backward.
Just put that on repeat.
Well-
Okay, I will restate
Boil it
that.
down.
I would,
Oh, actually, excuse me, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Did the chair make a motion?
I did not.
There was no
Oh.
motion on that.
No.
He's getting ready to.
So I'm going to, if that's okay. So I would move that we utilize the current instrument provided, and or I would be even so open as to the ACCT form or the Dr. Hockaday form, for lack of a better term, using as a initial presidential questionnaire, not utilizing the numbering system. I agree, Mr. Eichenborn, numbers are worthless, words mean a lot. And those are completed and returned to Carla by the 14th of this month, as was outlined in our original motion. The 14th of March, excuse me. And then those will be compiled to the best of Carla's ability in the subsequent weeks, and will be presented, and we'll have an executive session to initiate those discussions at our March 27th meeting of 2018.
That sounds like a motion.
Okay, great.
Did you write that all down?
And that is second from trustee Ramsauer. Any further discussion?
The only comment I have is I don't mind using Dr. Hockaday's form if that's the one we're choosing. I think it is not a good idea to evaluate the president now using that form without having any discussion. So for that reason, the form is fine. Actually filling it out is not fine, so that's how I'm going to go.
As a clarification there, I think my intent is that form and or a blank Xerox piece of paper would be utilized to write questions, concerns, thoughts, and all the things that we would like to, so that then we can summarize those. Carla will help us put those together, and then we can refine our form for a later dated evaluation. As I wanted to clarify that is a questionnaire, not an evaluation form.
I didn't understand your motion.
And that's what I wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay.
I agree that we need to move. We need to do something. And as I've said before, it's just a thought provoker. Write down what you want to say. The numbers don't mean much unless you make comments. So I feel like it doesn't even matter what form it is. If you're going to write comments, that's what is the important stuff. So I like the motion.
Terry?
Well, I'm trying to clarify something for us, Jean. Are you saying that, that using that form, then we should actually, as trustees, evaluate the president using that form from what little bit of information we have now? I mean, to actually put a number to it, or
Well,
say that I think he's great at this and so-so at this?
It'd be perfectly legitimate for them to say, I don't know.
Well, then it's not a good use of time.
So again, to clarify my intent and motion, and I'm sorry for all the words, it's a questionnaire. It's a starting point. It's a tool to help feed the mind to say, oh, these are the things I should be thinking about. As Mr. Reckenborn alluded, he's evaluated a lot of superintendents, hasn't evaluated a college president. This gives him some starting points to work from. Not put numbers down, put information down. We come together. Carl's only going to compile it as a service to us so that we can all look at a form and say, these are what everybody else is thinking. These are the questions. Say, oh, great, that's great. I hadn't thought of that question. We come together and we start figuring out how we're going to discuss it and how we're going to utilize those work sessions so that they're not wasted time.
Okay, thank you. No, I understand.
Is that as clear as I can possibly make what I'm thinking in my head? Yeah. No wonder I can't get anybody's diabetes.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the one more.
Can I say thank you?
Well, we still have to, way I understand your motion, we still have to decide on one thing, what instrument we're going to use.
Oh, no, I've made that it's wide open. Blank piece of paper if you want to. Either one of those two or the blank piece of paper.
One's as good as another. It's a
Well-
thought provoker.
So, then basically, we could have 7 different,
Let's just fill out both of them and get it over with.
then that's fine. Well, the reason why I wanted to opt on one is to try to make the compilation a little easier. And it's going to be, and Terry, to your point, if a person's not comfortable with putting down a number on this, that's fine. That's up to the individual trustees and what they feel comfortable with. The most important thing is the thought-provoking part and the comments. To sit there and say, general administration, so if you don't, you can ask your questions here or whatever. This serves as a form to help compile that information, to get it back to us in a way that's a little more streamlined. And that was the idea.
Well, you need to summarize the comments and then come back to the board here in an executive session and read those.
Read the comments.
Then you need to meet with him and
Right.
go over that.
And that's what we'd do in executive session that Dr. Presley said.
On the 27th?
So, do we want to still do both? We'd want to do one? What's,
I think the motion's already passed.
that's the motion. Okay,
The motion
now
was
I'm-
just either a form or feel free to ad lib what you want in there. And then Carla will help compile to the best of her ability to make it concise. And if it can't be all made concise, then it's going to be a long document. We'll have lots to read. So.
Okay. Everybody clear on that? Okay. Moving on. I mentioned last week that I thought it would serve us well if we had some subcommittees. That these are not standing, but and so working on this, you see that in your book, and this is what I came up with. And what I'd first want to ask, if everybody is comfortable, what I tried to do is place everybody's background and expertise in a department I thought would serve the college well. I would take comments or somebody's opinions to alter those.
Yes, I would like for you, Mr. Chairman, to explain exactly how you were thinking that we would add to the meetings with these assignments. Do you want us to investigate what's happening at this time with those folks, or how do you want us to use this?
Okay, so let's start with finance. And so, we brought up that our IT department, our technology is just woefully inadequate. I've been on many boards and I have not seen good put together financial information because we just simply lack the technology. I would like for you guys to work with the administration to see what we need to do and then report back to the board. And then that would go on. The next thing would be curriculum. Is the curriculum committee at the college meets every month. I'd like for that committee to be involved with them so that the board is apprised of what is going on with curriculum and report to the board. And so on and so on. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. You would like to have a report, not every month maybe,
No,
but a couple
no.
times a year.
No, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It might be nothing, and then, because it's like the IT is gonna take some time, but when it's time that you have something to present, then, but I would like to see people engaged with the administration and staff in these areas that we need, Title IX, student services. And you won't be meeting all the time, but I think the administration will be working with those committees to get us all involved, and the chairman will be a part of each one of those committees as well. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think that's a great idea. My last two institutions that I worked for as president, we always, it really helps because you become a champion for, I know my youth met with Foundation and they were very excited that you met with them, and I think you met with them for a while.
It was not their problem. It was a fantastic meeting.
There you go. Thank you, ma'am. And so I do think with all these different areas, I think it's very important. And you become a champion because you get to hear about what they're doing, either whether it be finance or Title IX, or whether it be student services or the other groups. So I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for each and every one of you to kind of be able to see what's going on with each one of those areas.
Okay, if nobody wants to beg off, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a question before we vote.
Go ahead.
On this sheet, Chairman Harshberger, my name is under Title IX.
Yes, ma'am.
The next page, it's under Student Services.
Which page are you?
Oh, this one. I just wanted to know
Yeah,
which
it is.
which one you wanted. That's all I'm asking.
That's
No
a
complaints.
good one. That's a good one. I
think she was under Title.
I'm perfectly happy to serve Title IX.
Well, on the big sheet, it has Florstein, Hampton, and Terry Malone on Title IX, and
It doesn't over
it
here.
doesn't on the first page.
No, I believe the one on the motion is the correct one.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's a good catch. Then I catch the one on this, the sheet by itself is not accurate. So be on the one for under current considerations, those categories.
You're going to stay busy.
Okay, so there was a motion, a second. Is that what the presenter of the motion had intended? Is those that way?
Yeah, on the first page.
Okay. Same from the second? Okay. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is the possible change of the next month's board meeting from the, would meet on April 20th instead of the 24th. I do have a conflict, I apologize to say. Is that going to be a problem if we change that to the 20th?
It's no
Or
problem for me.
30th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you all. I'll turn it over to Dr. Nolte, and he'll present the organizational chart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of wanted to,
Yeah, I know, but I know. It's also in the book.
Yeah.
And I made my notes in the book.
Can that be seen in the back, or does the light wash it out?
Can you make it out, Nick?
In an effort to streamline the administration and to a certain extent condense it, my thoughts are, administrators, I'm sorry I'm going to say this, but I will anyway. We really desperately need to make sure that we have plenty of faculty to teach the classes they're needing to teach. And so part of it was my job, I felt like, is to look at the, streamline the administration and look at it and kind of give you an idea of the history a little bit so you kind of know where we're going, where we are and where we're going. I looked at 2013 and it looked like there were around 7 administrators, 1 executive vice president, 3 vice presidents, 2 deans, and 1 executive director. And that was in 2013. So that kind of gives you the organizational chart. Kind of go chronologically, kind of going through the history of what happened in 2013. Kind of tells you what it looked like. 2016, I felt like it kind of blew up. And they went to 8 administrators, 1 executive vice president, 2 vice presidents, 1 executive director, and 4 deans. And so I felt like that was probably, and I've had conversations with some of you about that, I feel like it was a little bit too large, a little too cumbersome. And so as you can see, my draft that I've done in the positions I put in is 1 provost, 3 vice presidents, and 2 deans. Now, what I've done on one of the vice presidents is she at one time was a dean, and I've moved her up to a vice president. Because HLC looks very much at, I can promise you when they get here, the person they're going to want to talk to is the vice president for academics. And being that we're sending our provost out to Arizona, because I do feel like we need feet on the ground out there, especially if we're going to do the program right with helicopter and we decide to do fixed wing. And we have a great opportunity out there to do some really, really neat things. And so I do feel like probably the best thing to do is go ahead and elevate our dean, not have a dean anymore for the academic side, and move her to a vice president. So that's kind of my thought pattern that I've used. And part of it is I feel like this will be, and you know, organizational chart is a moving target. I'll be honest with you. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we go back to the board and look at it and see what we can do to make it better. Because it's an evolution and it's a process. And I do feel like, as you know, the executive director, which was Chris, is now a director and being paid for by the foundation. So we were able to save you know, $100,000 plus, which I thought was a little bit egregious. That other person got a percentage of whatever they raised. Well, you know, Chris has been very gracious about going ahead and raising the money and doing her thing. She's doing an absolutely wonderful job. So, but we moved her back to the director. Any questions?
It looks to me like we're really top-heavy.
Still?
I think you have as many administrators as you have faculty. We're really close to it. I mean, if you take KSA 727513 definition of an administrator, I really think you're within just a few of having as many administrators as you have faculty. You can count them, but, you know. And I like, what I lack also is just getting my feet on the ground. The organizational chart's fine, I love seeing that, but I would like some names with it.
Okay,
And
not
also,
a problem at all.
okay,
No problem.
I'm about to give you a problem. I would also like a job description and a salary for each one. Is that a problem?
I thought we gave that.
You just gave me for 4 people, just the vice presidents.
Okay.
Is all I have.
Okay.
And so if I could get names so I could start putting some names with these positions.
That's not
so I can get to
a problem
know the college better myself. And then if I could get salaries and job descriptions, that would help me also.
Perfect.
And I think maybe all board members would like to have, when I get all these salaries and job descriptions, especially on the salaries, I'm gonna add up that column, and I'm gonna add up the faculty column. And I don't know what I'm gonna come up with, but I'm hoping we're paying the faculty well enough that I'm disappointed in our contract with our faculty right now. I think a teacher with a master's degree, I think this, I'm not 100% sure, with a master's degree and no experience, it's $33,000 at this institution. Who can live on $33,000? That's not right. And when I was on the board, I think we're stuck in the 1980s on negotiations. We're saying, what's the least we can give them to get by with so that they'll say yes? And on the board, when I got on that board, I said, I want us to give our employees as much as we possibly can and still do the other things we have to do. And that's a 180-degree thought process from what we're doing right now. So I think I'm embarrassed that a teacher with a master's degree teaching at the college level, that's not right. It's not right. It's not right.
I'm not going to argue with you, don't you?
I know you won't.
Because I was proud of our faculty negotiations being able to do what do we call that with the nurses? Fair market value.
Fair market value.
And it really went up because, like you said, you can't pay a nurse $34,000 and expect to get what you're going to get. So I applaud you for this.
If we want to get the very best instructors here, and I think that has to be a goal, that we want, if we're going to educate these kids well, we've got to have the best instructors we can get, and you're not going to get the best for $33,000 if they have a master's degree. That's not fair, and you're not going to get the best. Not when they can go across the street 443 and get $46,000.
Without a master's degree.
Well, that's a master's degree.
That's a master's degree.
No experience, but, this is college.
I know.
Let's get some high-powered people in there to teach these classes. Really, let's get some people in there that just excite the heck out of these kids.
I agree.
We've talked so long about all of this, Dan, and we've even compared other colleges with our pay scale. And there are limits to
there's limits.
how far you can go. So we will be talking more about that in council.
I would just say you'd be hard pressed to find an instructor with a master's degree making $33,000. It doesn't happen. That is the base pay, but it doesn't happen. If I can show you the schedule of what the average pay is, and that's not $33,000.
Well, I'm sure it's not. The average wouldn't be.
Well, not even. I don't think you could find a person with a master's degree making $33,000.
Well, let's put our money where our mouth is, and let's do something for the faculty here.
And we've offered to all faculty fair market value, and they've refused it.
How do you get fair market value in Dodge City with? I don't know how you determine that. But anyway, I know how you can determine it with welders and nurses and so on, but I don't know how you can do it with your psychology teacher.
There's a study out there called Fox and Lawson, which I did at my last institution. And what you do is you look at what the range is, and it's a study, and it looks at what people are paying, and that's how you do it. And it's kind of a fair market value.
You could do fair market value with all
easily.
But every community is different. So fair market value.
You have to pick your region.
You're going to have to pick your demographics. Oh well. Anyway, let's look at it. Let's do something.
I totally agree. Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up will be the MOU from Universal Helicopters. Vice President John.
Yes, thank you.
Did we Did we get an approval for that? Did we need approval, or is it just
Oh,
information?
I thought that was an informational deal.
More information.
There's information,
That's,
let me turn back.
it
and see.
says that it's an
says-
action item, but
It is an action.
I
item.
don't, it's information as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Good
I
information.
do not know that we needed approval on that.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know that we do, but.
Do,
I-
Beth, do we?
Pardon me?
Did we need an approval on that?
I was asked to list it as an action item, yes.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, if you don't want to take action.
It's
more information.
Be my opinion that it's simply an administrative function, and,
I make the motion, we move that to an information item.
Second.
Okay. Well, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Good catch. All right.
All right.
President, or Provost.
Thank you. So this here is, I think what you could call a learning experience for me, because I'm trying to learn a little bit of more about our agreement with Universal Helicopter and whatnot. As many of you know, we have a standard agreement with Universal Helicopter that kind of dictates all of our operations with them. As part of that agreement, it says that for this annual conference, we will split the costs on, along with Embry-Riddle and Universal Helicopter. And so I knew that was coming up, but imagine my surprise when about 10 days ago, a contract showed up in my inbox that I had no idea existed or was going to be coming. And so that's why you're just now seeing it, given the fact that the conference started today. So again, it's something where we're contractually bound to split these costs, but now that we actually know the cost, at least of the booth space of the $55,000 split 3 ways, that's where the $18,333 is coming from. We still have not received the dollar figure on some of the setup and takedown fees, but we know that the total expense will not exceed $35,000. So again, this is one where we've already agreed to it contractually, and now we're just approving the funds to pay for it. So I would do my best to answer any questions that you all may have.
This is the same setup that we've had before.
Yes, this is one that we've been doing
Three or 4 years now.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, Helicopter Expo.
Do you have any idea how many students we contacted through this show?
Honestly, I would say they're very, very minimal. And so I don't know that I would recommend that we
That's
do
okay.
this again. But we'll be talking more about the contract a little bit later this evening. But the fact right now that we're contractually bound to do it, but yeah, I don't think we get a lot out of it, honestly.
Well, I have a couple of questions. They're
Please.
not. It says it's shared between Universal Helicopter. I'm reading under financial considerations.
Sure.
And I just made a note here. Embry-Riddle doesn't have to help?
They do. So there's 2 different parts to it. There's the booth fee itself, which is
Right.
$55,000.
Right.
That's divided 3 ways. On the setup and takedown, for some reason, no, that's just between us and UHI.
Yeah, and that's how you said this, financial consideration. UHI and DC3 will mutually agreed upon to share between the two. And then the actual contract, and it says, item number 1, UHI shall be responsible for, and it starts listing, I'm looking down here at J, 33 1/3% of the Hilo Expo exhibit fees, yes, and booth and carpet setup and takedown costs. And at the top it says UHI shall be responsible for. And then here it says they're gonna do the carpet. Now we're having to help with the carpet too.
Right.
Has
yeah.
it always been that way? I'm just curious.
Yeah, this is my first go around with it, but yes, this is my
And
understanding.
mine too, so I'm just asking you questions. I'm not wanting to get into a big issue about it. I just thought that it's already agreed upon, we've got to pay the money, but gosh, it doesn't seem really fair
Right,
We agree.
right.
when I got to reading that.
Okay. All right. like I said, it was a contractual deal from the past, and it's already in motion, so.
Excuse me. I have an opinion we ought to get out of flight distance altogether, but anyway, we can't get out of a contract that we've already made with somebody, so.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding with Universal Helicopters and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University.
Okay. Is there a second? Thorstein? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Okay. Item F, Code of Procedure for the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
Mr. Cruz.
In January, we presented the Code of Procedures for the board for a second reading. And the reason for making changes is section 24. That was the initial reason for making changes to the Code of Procedure, to bring section 24 in compliance with what is required under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. It was pointed out at the January board meeting some concerns with the definition of quorum, which is section 3. In follow-up to that meeting, I have made some changes that I am proposing the board accept. With regard to the quorum, when a quorum is present, a majority of affirmative votes cast, ignoring abstentions, is sufficient for the adoption of any motion or resolution. So if a quorum is present and you have a majority vote in the affirmative, that motion or resolution would carry. And so what we're asking this evening, this being the second reading, is approval of the Code of Procedure for the board.
All right. I'd entertain a motion to
Motion to
approve. Okay.
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on to board policies. So, Dean Horwath.
This is the second reading of the Board Policy Series 500 to 508. We have asked Series number 505 to be pulled from the agenda, pending further review for the council. Minor changes since our last discussion in January, and that would be a change in the heading title of 502, and her request added degree completion needs to number 507. Respectfully request that Series 500 through 508, excluding number 505, be adopted.
Okay.
The only trouble I had with it was 505, and it is scratched that. That page just got so many illegal things on it, so.
I
good.
move
I'm good with the rest of it.
I move approval.
Okay, second. Jeremy, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to item H, the 2018 and 19 tuition and fees. Mr. Montenhoney?
All right, thank you. We presented a charge sheet to you that shows the prior year, the current year, and then what we're proposing for 2018 and 19. If you look down most of the columns, most of them will remain the same. There will be no changes to the costs for both tuition and incidental fees for Ford County residents. And you heard earlier in Dr. Searcy's presentation that it looks like then we would remain the lowest in Ford County costs in the state. That's been an expectation, I think, that has been communicated by the majority of the board for several years. So we've kept the costs as low as possible for Ford County students. We have minimal increases in tuition and fee charges for our non-Kansas residents and our international students. And if you look there, we've got $2 per credit hour for tuition and $2 per credit hour for incidental fees. Then all the way at the bottom of the page, for technology fees, we have an increase of $2 per credit hour there. And the primary purpose for that increase You heard earlier that we need to update our information system, and we're in desperate need of that. I think desperate is the correct word. And so we would take the $2 there and apply that towards our conversion costs that'll be coming over the next 3 years or so. So those are the main changes, and I think Dr. Searcy did a good job of showing you kind of where we rank with the other community colleges in the state. So we would ask for your approval. The reason why we're asking now is that we open our enrollment on April the 4th. And in particular, we're trying to work very closely with the high school on the concurrent enrollment, because it's one of our main enrollment management goals is to increase and work with the high school and set those schedules up earlier. And they asked if we could have it prior to their scheduling meetings over there, so that when we give parents information, it's accurate and we won't have to go back a second time when we change our tuition and fees. So we would ask for your approval of as presented.
What are incidental fees used for?
Okay, Betty, you want to go through the incidental fees and everything we apply?
Yes, I will. I'm just gathering my thoughts here. We have, most of the incidental fees go to, you've got 600,000 of them that is transferred to a scholarship fund for out-of-state and out-of-district divisional scholarships. But you have enough come in fees to offset that. We do not use any of our Ford County incidental fees to offset divisional scholarships.
So what are Ford County incidental fees used for?
They go back into the operation of the general fund.
So basically, what they really are, I mean, if we're gonna be really honest about this, we're charging $71 per credit hour tuition. I mean, we're calling it an incidental fee, but you know, if it walks and quacks, it's a duck, and that is tuition.
And Trustee Malone will agree with you because he makes that,
Well,
he makes that comment every year.
Well, I know, but it truly is tuition. If you just call it something else, it doesn't mean, you know, you're reaching, the Ford County residents are already, taxpayers are reaching in their pockets and paying for all of this. And I just don't understand why we can't. How much money is it? How come we can't do away with incidental fees for, and tuition for Ford County students? Is it gonna break the college? Honestly.
In Ford County incidental fees, you probably bring in around both vocational and general, both sides. You are probably looking at $550,000.
Okay.
Just for incidental fees.
But we're using $600,000 of incidental fees.
But that comes
from other students, not Ford County students, but we're using that to support athletics, right? I mean, we're
the 600,000, basically, the
Yeah.
majority of it is for athletic scholarships.
Yeah. And is most of that, well, I know it is, has to be, I've played football, it has to be going to the football program, most of it, doesn't it?
I would say yes, the majority of it is because you have, what, I don't know how many players you.
Heard of.
Yeah, heard of, that should cover it. How much?
85 are allowed on scholarship.
Okay, so 85.
85 is allowed. We usually don't have that number when we get 20 today, but 85 is allowed.
Well, I've played sports forever. I love sports. I love playing sports. But I would really, as a trustee, I would like to know what sports we have. I know what sports we have. How many kids are participating? how many of those kids are from Kansas? How many are from Ford County? And how many are from out of state? Another thing I'd like to know is,
And we can get those numbers.
I think
for
you can, and what it costs. I mean, what does it cost for the uniforms and the helmets and the taking the kids to the trips and buying the roast beef and beans when they're out on the road, you know, and those kind of things, and coaching salaries and the whole. I'd like to know what each one of those sports costs, and then I'd also like to know what, especially I know that especially football and basketball. What is our gate at those events? Is anybody coming? I mean, when we have a football game, is anybody going to watch the football game? Are there 50 people up there and 80 guys on the field?
You
know.
bring in about all gate receipts is about around $18,000 a year.
Okay, so
I mean,
it would, what if we took the football program and said, in the basketball program, we said, Ford County resident, you come in free. Could we get more people in the stadium? I don't think we could. I mean, I don't think we could. And I'm,
I don't know that I can answer that question immediately. I don't know that I
well,
can answer that.
I guess my point is this. If we opened the gates and everybody in Ford County could come in free and nobody showed up, then I would say nobody in Ford County, or very few people in Ford County, are interested in having a football program. So why are we spending all the money on a football program? You know, if it's to give Kansas kids an opportunity to play football, or Dodge City kids, or Cimarron kids, or whatever, fine. But if we're just hauling kids in from Florida and Michigan and wherever, you know, and nobody in Ford County comes to watch those games, including, I've been by that stadium, really, there's not 20, 50 people up in there, and students hardly go, you know, to the ball game. I haven't been to the basketball game, but the football game, just not very many up there.
Football games and
Packed.
The quarterback this year was from Dodge City.
Well, I'm not, I'm not asking that question at all, but.
Dan, we've talked about this a lot of times too. They fill the dorms, which is a significant moneymaker, especially when we renovated and need those dorms filled.
Okay, what if we offered all of our scholarships, or a lot of our scholarships, to Kansas kids? Don't we get some money from the state then? Don't we get money from the state for each Kansas kid that comes to college here?
you're talking high school.
$2,200 or something? No?
You're probably talking about Senate Bill 155, where if you're a vocational student, you get settled.
No, he's
Yeah.
talking about state aid.
Credit hours.
Credit hours.
Yeah.
I mean, how much is that on average for a non-vocational student? I thought you said it was 2,100, and it's higher for.
Yeah,
thought
it's around 2,100. It's not that, because we're on an operating
Right.
grant, but it averages out, and I think that was one of your questions. And if you put it all together and just take it times what you're actually receiving, it's about 2,100.
Okay. Well,
And Dan, there is another side too. Most of those guys bring Pell Grants with them. I don't know the numbers on that either, but
well, I'd kind of like to find out how many we have participating, what the money, what's it costing us, and you know, how can we make it a better program so it doesn't
legitimate
cost us so
questions.
much?
We're meeting tomorrow on that, Beth, and
Yeah.
I called a meeting on that, and we can bring a report to you, or we'll send it out in your board packet of where all of the scholarships goes and how much. I think you could look at about 1.5 million.
I got a football scholarship here. I think it was $35 a semester, and that paid for everything, so.
And I can provide some demographic information related to the residence halls as of this morning. We got 281 over there right now, and 168 are males in sports, 70 are females in sports, and 238 is the total number of athletes. 43 is the total number of non-athletes. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a breakdown. We do have 2 athletes from Dodge City that chose to live in our residence halls because they wanted a college experience. And the remainder is 98, and that's athletes from out of state.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Were you finished?
I'm just wanting those numbers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll have them for you next month. And I think Terry had asked for those numbers too.
My concern about the tuition and fees, especially for non-residents of Kansas, is that they come nowhere close to paying for the education that these non-residents receive. And I didn't even know Dr. Searcy's report was in here. I was moving this weekend. But I think we ought to be careful what we wish for. Being the lowest tuition and fees chargers in the state just means that the people of Ford County pay a lot more. We charge, what, $240 more for I think a non-resident of Kansas than we do for a resident. If we get $2,100 from the state for every Kansas resident, and we actively recruit people from out of state, and if we have about 300 of them, we're losing over $600,000 just in state aid. And the people of Ford County are the ones that have to subsidize their educations. One thing I don't understand why Arizona, Colorado, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah get some sort of a break, because they don't give us any breaks. There's no reciprocal agreement. If you go to Colorado and take a course and you're a resident of Kansas, it's going to cost you somewhere between $300 and $450 a credit hour. The Kansas City, Kansas Community College charges their out-of-state people $4,800 more than they charge interstate. Johnson County, $3,300 more. Butler, $1,600. Coffeyville, $1,500. Cali, $1,500. Fort Scott, $1,600. Garden City, $600. Hutch, $100. Independence, $1,300. And Seward County, $1,000. I think I don't want to take up time tonight, and this is kind of set, but I think we need to look at this. All of the only good news, or the good news is for the people who don't live in this state and who don't live in this county, because they're not paying their fair share to get an education. We are funded like K through 12. We get no real help from the state. The only help we get is what we get from our Ford County taxpayers. And unfortunately, the other community colleges, the other 18 counties, we've all got into a situation where we compete with each other, and it's kind of a race to the bottom as to who can attract the other county residents and let their own county pay the cost. So I think that's wrong. I think that community colleges weren't meant to educate the entire state of Kansas unless the rest of the entire state of Kansas was willing to pay for it. I think we ought to take a look at that. That's all I have.
Well, guys, we've already said, somebody already said tonight that Dodge City kids, Dodge City families are some of the poorest in the state. We have quite a large number of kids on free and reduced lunches. We have the very poorest elementary school. One of our elementaries is the poorest in the state of Kansas. I want to find a way. Our taxpayers are paying for this thing. I want to find a way that these kids, if it takes finding $550,000 somewhere, I want to find a way that these kids whose parents are paying for this their kids can come here for nothing. I want to find a way that they can come here and get an education and boost themselves up. We have amazing students in this school district, just absolutely amazing. And we need to find a way to come up with $550,000 or whatever, so that these kids can come to this school. They can't. A lot of them can't afford to come here. They can't afford $71 a credit hour. They can't. They can't. You know, and then I don't know. We need to do something as a board. We need to do something. We've got to find a way to do this.
Right, I need a motion.
So we'll approve the tuition and fee schedule.
Recommended fees. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Aye. Okay, next item would be the room and board rates.
We have gotten the dorm where it is at a break even making some money. So the only thing we're recommending is our food will probably go up between 2 to 3%. And we're recommending that we only increase the food portion.
Okay.
And that would be a 2% on just the food. And I think we can be very thankful that we now have dorms that when families come in, that they don't say, my daughter's not staying here, and leave. So, I mean, we don't get any people that turn around and leave when they look at our dorms. I think the president's right, we've got the nicest dorms, and I get that when I go to the meetings everybody talks about. And they're paying for themselves. Now, that's with enrollment staying where it is right now, but the dorms are paying for themselves.
And on that point, Betty, can you tell us when the payout is on those revenue bonds for those dorms? When they be?
One I refinanced, and that's what really got us over the crunch, is because it delayed that payment for a couple of years so we could catch up. There are 25-year bonds, and the oldest one was the one we refinanced, so that would be Jackson.
Home.
So it would be the oldest and the longest payout.
We can get on the
know
debt
off the
sheet
top of
next
your
month.
head.
I know it's been on the pre, and that's ballpark's
Yeah.
fine, but roughly 25-year payouts on this
Yes.
is where we're at, so.
Some of them down below that.
Yeah.
We'll bring it.
Probably average 20 years out. But if we can keep our enrollment just like it is today, we are making money.
Keep our dorm enrollment where it's at.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. There is a difference. We can keep them full where we can manage this.
I make the motion to accept the recommendation as stated by Dana.
Okay, second, Terry. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, let's pause right here. Let's take a 10-minute break before we start on to the next section. So let's try to be back in session at 8 minutes after.
Yes.
All right, let's regain session here. So we'll move on to item J. Certificate. What it says there.
Certification. Certification.
What it says there. Certification of Fidelity State Bank and Trust. Okay.
Okay, this is something that we do, that Fidelity, that we have to do for our bank, Fidelity State Bank, when we change our chairperson. That would be both J and K. Do you want to take those together?
I would make a motion for them together.
Mr. Chairman, I move that items J and K be approved.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Mia. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, to item L, the 2018 Ram 250 pickup.
Okay, there you are. Fast on your feet.
As you can see from the consideration page that we have a lot of vehicles on this campus that are used in a lot of different tasks. We sold several vehicles in the fall of 17 that we used when we purchased a flatbed pickup that we were able to put our sand spreading equipment on, and it has a snow plow on the front of it. Also, what is not on here is that some of the vehicles that we sold a pickup that we had since it was brand new that was 37 years old. We sold another one that was 31 years old, and we sold another one that was donated to us, and I think we lost money on it. But anyway, currently we have a need. We have large freight sometimes, like we go and we pick up water softener salt by the pallet because we have several buildings that require water softener salt, and we go through a lot of it. We have we use it to pick up various other things as well. It's just we need something that's an all-around vehicle, and there's just some things you can't haul in a van, even a passenger van. And so since we went through that in the fall with the other pickup, we saw an opportunity here, and we set out for bids, and we requested bids for pickups with snow plows because we thought that the cost of adding the snow plow was small compared to the versatility of being able to use it when we got snow on the campus, and then use it for other things whenever we needed to as well. Besides the main campus, we're responsible for snow removal at the radio station, the Adult Learning Center, the Beeson Road location, and the American Legion. So this additional snowplow would allow us to handle any snowfall below 4 or 5 inches more quickly, more efficiently before it got any deeper. And then a snowstorm that would give us more than that would trigger our agreement with Dodge City Sand to remove snow primarily from the parking lots while we would still try to take care of the roadways on the campus. We did sell a white tractor and a snow pusher attachment for it, and we got $27,635 out of it. The pickup we recommend costs $26,460, and the snow plow is $5,450, which comes down to $4,275 being spent out of our budget if you use the money returned to us from the tractor. Since all of the ones under consideration, or all of them that met our spec, were bid as 2018 models, we're looking at the cheapest price, which is the Lot Motors vehicle. They alone did not price a blade in their package, but if we add the price of a blade from BS Trailer Sales, it still makes the lot package the lowest cost. We really need this pickup for some of the things that we do. The snow plow is on a separate consideration, and it can be voted down. We feel that it is worth the expense to enhance our versatility and our ability to reduce vendor costs when inclement weather comes in. The less hours that Dodge City Sand is on our property, the less money we have to pay. So I would ask that, and all the information is there in your packet on who bid what. And so we would ask that you would approve the proposal on the 2018 Dodge Ram pickup.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
One is, what's snow? And number two is, do you know something we don't know?
Yeah, I know. It seems like we're in a perpetual drought.
I make a motion, we combine these two items and approve. I make a motion to approve.
A second.
Second, motion second. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say that it's very important that we do these kinds of things because it's a life and safety issue. We have to be able to get the ambulance or the fire truck to those dorms 24/7, 365. Our greatest responsibility, even before educating these people, is that we keep them safe here on this campus. So, a wholehearted second.
There's any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you, Director McBee. All right, item N, the Zeus Diagnostic and Information Tool. Director Cole.
Good evening, Chairman Harshberger, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Nolte. I'm Jeff Cole, Professor of Automotive Technology and the Division Chair for Workforce Development Division. Dean Osmus wasn't able to be here this evening because he's attending Perkins meetings in Topeka, I believe, for a couple days. So he voluntold me to do this. So I'm here to ask for your consideration to purchase the Zeus Diagnostic and Information System. It's made by Snap-on. I have some supporting material that's just a representative photo of the diagnostic system. I'll hand that out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cole.
Thank you.
So anyway, the first photo there is just the whole diagnostic system. It's a tool cabinet that holds all the wiring leads and connections for the vehicles. It's got a big screen there that's actually a touch screen monitor. And then the second page is the actual tool that is communicating with the vehicle, and that information's going onto that screen there. It's the latest and greatest tool from Snap-on for automotive diagnostics. So, provides all the functions that you need to repair a vehicle or to diagnose a vehicle. I'll just skip down to the current considerations. You probably read all this already. But it's a mobile diagnostic workstation that we can take from the classroom to the shop. It's wireless, so you can actually have a vehicle in the shop and the computer communicating with the vehicle, but have the monitor and that large screen in the classroom for students to see, and can actually mess around with it themselves there. It references many different car repair databases. The one they use is called SureTrack, which is a database. It gets information from all over the world that people enter in there for vehicles they've worked on, and it kind of shows you common problems that the vehicle has had. And it'll serve a second need well too, but for recruiting events, because we could actually take it like to our Tech Expo for recruiting, and then when students are coming through the college to look around at everything. We have something showing, you know, kind of the latest and greatest. And it's something that they will see in, you know, in our modern shops and dealerships and stuff. We hope it will be a good deal for enrollment, help the enrollment. The price of the Zeus Diagnostic and Information System is $15,281, and it will be purchased with Technical Education Capital Outlay Funds. We just respectfully request for you to approve the purchase of the Zeus Diagnostic and Information System. The Zeus will provide a high-quality learning opportunity that can be transferred directly from the classroom to the auto shop. As automobiles become more and more computerized and technical, it's imperative that students are given the opportunity to work with the same kind of tools and equipment that they will see out in the field. So, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I've got three.
All right.
Okay, does this come with a service agreement?
It'll have 1 year of updates.
Okay, and that was the next question, was, is it updatable?
Yes, it's
Okay.
updatable.
All right.
The current scan tool we have, I'm going to say it's probably 12 to 15 years old, and it actually will only be supported for 1 more year as far as updates.
Right. And then I see if the offer expires 1/26/18, are they going to still honor this quote?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
Actually, the gentleman came today to extend the trial period, so.
Okay.
But yes, they will honor it. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next up is the student tracker agreement, so Vice President Tamont and Mr. Webster.
Okay. Thank you. Several months ago, the board approved a contract agreement with National Student Clearinghouse, and this is the final part of that agreement. And it's very important. It's mutually beneficial to both our institution and the area high schools. Because when we have this agreement in place, we'll be able to track our students that come to this institution and then may transfer somewhere else. And the area high schools get credit for that post-secondary transfer and get, they look around and ask us all the time where we're at in the clearinghouse and the tracker. And this tracker is very important because it's for the students that don't graduate from here necessarily, but would transfer maybe to Bethany or K-State. So that way we can still include them in the area high school's information back to them. And also for the time that they transitioned here, we can get credit for it. And Mike Webster has been working on a file, and this will allow us to transmit that file on a regular basis instead of having to write programs that we pull it from our old system. So I think it'll be very helpful to our area schools, and it will help this institution as well. It has been reviewed by Attorney Curbs and approved, so we ask for your approval.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Malone? Okay, discussion?
Bev, how, is this a permanent record, or how do we use this?
A permanent record? Yes. It goes into a national database, and then what happens is the Board of Regents will look at the post-secondary transfer rates for each of the institutions in the state, compare them to peer institutions, make them a total for the state of Kansas, because the Board of Regents has some graduation goals. What was it that they called it, 2020, I think it was, to meet that initiative. And then it also goes back to high school funding and those levels to make sure they're transitioning their students into college or workforce development. So it's just a statewide tracking system for student information, and then it also is compared nationally. So it's very important, and it's been a little difficult for us to do because of our information system, that we have to kind of pull it out and hand track it. So when we upgrade, this will work really well, but this is one step to getting us there. And I don't know if you remember, several months ago, we had the chief director of the Board of Regents that got on a plane, and the Department of Education chief, and they all flew out here and asked us to do this. So it is very important on a statewide level.
It's when Sally Cosell came out.
Yes.
And we found out there's only 2 in the whole state that didn't have it. We were one of those 2.
Whoops. So we weren't happy about that. We want to be one of the first 2 in the state to be involved in new things instead of the other way around. So we worked very hard to get this done quickly. I think they're getting the first information in because they seem very happy when we run into them in meetings. Because what it was doing is, if you were a feeder school to here, it didn't show that your graduates from your high school were coming here, even though they were. So we certainly want to make sure that that's all information that's transmitted correctly.
Can you go back and put former students on too?
I'm going to ask Mike to go into that.
He already left.
I will step into that. Mike
I
had
can
to run
answer.
home on it, so.
Degree verified.
Yes, we
And
are
so
able to
they'll-
go back.
Yeah.
So.
I think we're going back to, is it 76 or it's way back?
Yeah, so we're starting with the most current years, and we're slowly working our way back on it, but yes, we can.
That would be good for history of retention and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be able to preserve that data, historical data, and that'll be very important.
Okay, sounds good.
Bevan, you can feel free to defer this question to Glenn, but is there any student handbook policies or any of our board policies that we need updated then for, in my world, it's HIPAA, but whatever the
Like FERPA.
student security, yes, okay.
FERPA and student security. Yes, anytime you transmit information to a third party, you know, there's always a risk. But I think that the policies we have in place now are up to date. You recall we did some of those financial security ones a few months ago, and we're still looking at all of them, and I just about bet you we'll find some more that we want to upgrade and bring to you. So we're working through it.
Sounds good.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. All right, new business. Item A, proposal to expand the boardroom. Trustee Malone.
I just thought we ought to discuss this and find out if there's enough interest to ask, perhaps suggest that bids be taken. But in the last year, we've had a couple of times where the public wanted to be in the boardroom and listen, and they couldn't. And several were unhappy about that. And we heard from the lady that gave us the Open Meetings Act, indicating that we should make provisions to make sure that the public can hear everything that's said or be present in the boardroom. So I had, last summer, Charlie Kolsky was working at the House, so I asked him about it, and then I learned that he and his partner, business partner, had expanded this out to the west about 25 years ago or so. And anyway, I had him look at whether or not you could knock out a wall and put in flexible, panels. And looked on, he said, yeah, it's possible to do. So so it wouldn't interrupt the space of the cafeteria. We wouldn't lose that space that's usable. So anyway, if there's enough interest in that, perhaps the administration could look into it.
I have a point. When we had our questions and answers when we became trustees, we used the little theater, and I thought that worked out really well. It's a beautiful place, and we, you know, if we have a large crowd, we could just go over to the little theater and have it set up instead of spending extra money here.
When I've thought about that too, I think the problem is that if people don't know that they're going to be able to get in or that we're going to have it at the little theater, they may not come. That's a problem with that. But obviously it's a good place to have a meeting. Not ideal, but okay for a larger crowd. Yeah.
I just think that it'd be easier to use what the facilities we have instead of adding to our cost.
And like I say, I have no idea what the cost would be, so that's why I thought that at least we ought to explore that.
I wondered if the camera and definitely this system needs to be improved, but that's a consideration too. A really hard state to start tearing up when we might not need that room for any other reason. We have other places to meet. So
I was looking into that, and in 2012, we spent $1.2 million on the bookstore and student union remodel. So was that the expansion of this?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it?
Not of this room, Gary.
No, this room was done before that. That was the
Okay.
finishing of the dining room.
So when was this addition made?
I'm going to say 30 years ago.
I don't think it's been
I
that
remember
long.
being on the board,
No.
Gary,
Wasn't that long.
when it wasn't expanded, let's put it that way. So it had to be
So
after
it's-
probably 91, something like that,
So,
92.
okay, so that was a different,
When we enclosed there used to be balconies along the backside
Yeah,
of the campus.
right.
That would have been before the 90s. I started in 91.
It would have been middle 80s.
Right, middle 80s.
Wow,
probably.
okay.
Right, right.
I remember meeting in a much smaller room, but my memory's not very good.
There was another board.
in that room over there?
This
The Ford
was
room.
Ford room?
We used to be.
Okay, yeah, it was small.
It was cool. It still is.
Well, okay, so I think that's something for all to consider and go on. So thank you, Terry, for bringing that to our attention. Item B, Board Policy 436, social media. So Vice President Tammy, you have the floor to go over policies.
Okay, this is first reading, and we had several policies that we had to take a look at on this, but this is social media use policy, and there are actually two of them that are identical. Mike Webster drafted the policy from our IT department, and we decided that we wanted to be consistent with what our expectations were of our students and our employees. So there are actually two of them that are identical, and we've placed them in two different sections. One is the employee section, and the other is the student section. It is for your review, and we'll bring it back to you next month. And hopefully, if you have any suggestions, please let us know. We'll add them in there. But I think especially in today's climate, we're trying to teach our students to be civil. And certainly we want our employees to model that in their use of social media within the workplace and within the college campus. So I think that, just recent events that you read about in the news and college campuses and different times of harassment, we certainly want to allow people to have their free speech rights, but yet have a balance on something that would cause hostile environment in the workplace or danger to life safety or something like that. So this is what we're proposing out there for our first reading, and we'll bring it back to you again next month. But I do think it is very important that we put this in place.
I agree that it needs to be done. I had a little question reading through on page 2 that I thought it wasn't quite clear, the wording.
Okay, which one?
Well, under number 5, employees,
Okay,
and it would be the same on the other one too,
uh-huh,
where it says, "Be clear, they represent DCCC when using social media." And then later it says, "Avoid creating any impression they're acting in an official capacity." And I wondered if it's just a matter of wording. Instead of saying, "Be clear, they represent DCCC," could it say, understand that they represent DCCC when using social media, that they are understood to be working in an official capacity by the people hearing them or seeing what they're.
uh-huh. I can see where it could be interpreted that way, and we probably can do some clarifying.
Well, just think
language.
about it,
Uh-huh.
and then later it says that you're not representing the official capacity of the college, but I thought those two needed to be a little bit more.
Sure.
That was my
We
impression.
can, we'll sit back down with Mike and the IT staff, and we'll see if we can word that a little better, okay? I like that idea.
But I do like having these
Uh-huh.
policies.
Okay, any other suggestions? And if you think of some over the, between
No
now and the next-
suggestions. I would just say that it made me smile, the very last line of both of these, which says, "The guidelines will evolve as social media evolves." And I thought, well, good, because otherwise it wouldn't last 2 months.
Yeah, the early drafts referred to like Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram, and we would be coming back to you in a year, and 2 of them would be obsolete, and we'd have 2 new ones, so we just didn't even go with that verbiage.
Fishbowl. Okay.
Okay, just for a review.
Okay. 708.
Okay, this one is a new policy related to alcohol consumption, and it was brought about by the necessity for moving our annual scholarship, foundations scholarship function over to the Student Activity Center, more commonly referred to as the Dome. Christina Hazelhorst is here, and she had talked with them, and in order to lower the rental costs, we had previously held it in several different places. I remember over the years, it's been held at the Civic Center, Knights of Columbus, various different places, but they wanted very much to bring it on campus, and so in order to do that, all of our campus alcohol policies strictly prohibit the consumption of alcohol. So this was drafted at the request of the foundation specifically for the scholarship auction. However, if you read the verbiage, it wouldn't necessarily be specific to that. We can't imagine right now that there would be another use, but that is open. So Glenn Curbs drafted the policy, and you can see that he referred to the Kansas Liquor Control Act, and we would still be in compliance with that. And it would be separate from any other alcohol policy. So in other words, alcohol would still be strictly prohibited in other campus buildings. One of the things that we will now do, as we go through and we get this one approved, we'll go back, because we have some other alcohol policies, and we will say, except as outlined in policy 708. So, when you change one policy, you go back and you gotta change 6 more sometimes to make them all congruent. So we'll try to keep up with making the other changes. But again, this is a first reading, and I would invite Chris Hazelhorst. Did you want to add anything? Yeah.
Good evening. This was all brought to my attention by my board, and they started this conversation because we're trying to get the community a lot more involved here on campus. We've got this brand new building. Let's get the community in here. But they also recognize not necessarily the need, but the want for some alcohol at an event like the auction. It tends to make people a little bit more relaxed in order to do this. I admittedly was nervous about this particular option, But then after discussion and comparison with other colleges, it's not unusual to do this. I did look at some other colleges. I looked at all 19, actually. There were only 3 that I could not find any policies on their website. I assume a phone call would probably get that policy to us, but I could not find policies for Colby, Kansas City, Kansas, or Allen County. I did find 5 colleges out of the 19 do not allow alcohol at all, no matter what, no matter whether it's an event or not. There are 3, Garden, Seward, and Hutchinson, that do not allow it on campus, but they'll allow it for college events off campus with written permission by the president and the board. There are 2, Butler and Independence will allow it on campus with the authorization of a president's signature for events only. And then there are 5, Pratt, Johnson, Barton, Cali, and Coffeyville, that authorize it for fundraising events only, or only in specific areas. And I did print off some of those policies. That's something that we really kind of wanted to look at before we even discuss doing that here. But I would entertain any questions.
Will DC3 be the owners of a liquor license then?
No, it's a temporary liquor license, and that's through the state of Kansas. We would have to comply with that, but it would be a temporary liquor license only for that day.
Okay. In Kansas, tavern owners are held responsible for over serving. Would we have that same liability?
That is something that we have looked into.
That's not right.
They're not.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Thank you, Terry.
you said you thought this was just going to be one event, or you don't think it's going to be one event?
For now, it's just one event, just for the auction.
So we won't be renting it out to Ducks Unlimited?
No.
Will that help
We'll
us
leave
pay
that
for
up
it?
to United Wireless and Expo. And
Oh, that's a good. Will that help us pay for the dome?
I know when you've been at this function, we might double our take.
Exactly.
If we had the box.
Yes. It's big. That it is a big function. The last one did not raise us the money that we wanted to, but we are hoping to change some things up to get it back up to par where it was. We're obviously in a competition with several community colleges that are quite successful, one within 50 miles of here. So what we're trying to do is to get some more community involvement and awareness of campus, get them on campus, get people with a vested interest in the college so they can actually see where their scholarship donations are going to and where their fund donations are going to.
I definitely see the advantage for that event. About others coming in and bringing their own,
No.
No.
that we can't do that.
No.
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 Because that becomes a headache.
Yes.
Purchase tickets in advance.
Huh?
I think they have to purchase tickets in advance.
Yeah, tickets
So
have to be
there's no
purchased
sales
in
at the
advance.
door or walk-ins.
Yeah.
My last institution, we were able to raise $200,000 a year for our event. But we had alcohol.
Yeah. I'm not a big drinker, but this is a point that's been brought up to me repeatedly.
There's no law that requires that, but the city enacted that convoluted ordinance for the Civic Center, and I have no ideas.
So you
Other
don't
than
know
it
if
was
it will
20 years
apply?
ago, and things were a little bit tougher 20 years ago about alcohol.
Sure. Well, on number 4, one of the things that we'll need to do is we'll need to double check the city ordinances, Dodge, see what's still in place, make sure, so we'll do that as well.
Well, number
I
two-
didn't realize that just applied to the Civic Center, so, okay, thank you.
On number 2, just for me, I think I'd be more comfortable if it was approved by the Board of Trustees. So,
No problem.
for one thing, so
We
the
can-
president wouldn't have to bear
Take that load.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you, sir.
excited about this.
I am.
I want the community to get into the dome so they can see what a cool facility it is. And I love those fundraisers.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bev, was there anything further you wanted to do with 847?
No, it's just the same policy, and so I'll make the clarifying language on that as well.
Okay.
So it's just the same.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
One more question, Heather. There you are. Where number 4 says the sponsoring party, shouldn't we just say?
The sponsoring party like would be the foundation.
Shouldn't we just say that, or is that necessary?
I think we were writing the policy so that if there was, in general, if the foundation decided to have another event in there, Glenn, you want to comment on that?
We don't want to have to change the policy every time. Let's say some other group wants to use it. It's a group that's good for the college purpose or whatever. We didn't want to make the policy so limited that it would have to come back here to be changed in order to do something. So that's why it talks about the
Well, and
sponsor
that was
group
my
without
point
identifying.
about outsiders coming in. It would always, we don't want that. We don't want outsiders bringing their own stuff in.
It may be Booster Club.
It's hard to
They
know
can't
what
bring
that
anything
situation
in.
may be, though. I mean,
But it says if the sponsors
Sponsoring
have
party.
to provide. So I just want to be sure we have that understanding.
well, you're going to have to approve it.
Right, so if you have
board
the
will
board
have to-
approving,
Well, the board
then
has-
then
yeah.
you
If you
have
make
the
that
power
change.
to make that decision.
Yeah, will trustee Reichenborn ask us to change from the president to the board of trustees, so all of you would be aware if there was another sponsoring party and have prior approval?
Does a majority of the board want that change? Want to change it from the president to the board?
Do you want to?
We'd have to vote.
I know, but just, is there any other response?
Well, that would be dated far enough ahead that we'd have a meeting before then.
How does the president feel about it?
That's great. I would prefer you guys too.
Of course you would.
Yeah,
I would
it
move-
typically does say the board.
Okay. I would move to amend the policy that's before us regarding alcohol consumption on subsection 2 and exchange the word president for the board of trustees.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. Okay,
So we'll make that change. Thank
good
you.
cha- all right. And then you had everything you needed to discuss on 847. So there's two new items that are going to be placed here on new business. And the secretary called them P and Q. That's going to be items that trustee Rackenborn pulled out of the consent agenda. So we'll move to item P, which is B2 in your book.
I have, the only reason I asked for that to be pulled out was because I wanted to, I have no problem with that, the vice president being appointed to that, but I just want to, again, caution us of getting too many chiefs, and if we can hold that back a little bit, I have no objections to making that change, so from her being a dean to vice president.
And I took your suggestion the other day when you and I talked. We had another vice president, and after our conversation, I thought you're probably correct. So we removed that position. I'm serious, because you and I talked about, do you need that many? And Mr. Malone and I've had that same conversation. I'm trying to narrow that field down so we can hire more faculty.
That's good. Okay, and then the other one, on 3, the only questions I have, I'm not opposed to this either, I was just wondering, didn't seem to be enough information. What degree does this person have? And
Nancy Schmidt has the teaching course last fall and also the semester. And we're qualifying her on the basis of her master's in English literature. However, she also has a master's of education from the SEC with the certification in ESL and a law degree from KU.
Well qualified. And, I didn't see her salary.
We're waiting for another approval on that, as I understand.
And was this position advertised? And did you have a committee, and was this committee's recommendation to hire this person?
It's my understanding that when we have a person who's working full-time, we qualify her, and in talking with members of the department, especially the division chair, who suggested that as a possibility, we decided to move on this basis.
Just a question, after some other things I read recently.
And what, does she have any experience except with the college here?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, she's retired from Seward and
Okay.
had relocated here to Dodge City. So she has experience teaching at the community college level for Seward County and also in high school.
Okay. Well, I have no more questions. If anybody else doesn't have any, I move both these.
Could I just add, she's delightful. I hope
Okay, there was a motion to approve those two items. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, as stated.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. So then I think we then move into executive session, so.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss negotiations with the Professional Relations Committee of the Dodge City Community College Faculty Association for the 2017-2018 school year contract pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exceptions to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B3. The open meeting to resume in this location at 9:10 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, college attorney, the provost, vice president Herman, and Dean Hawarda should be included in the executive session.
Okay. Is there a motion? Well, I guess we don't. Do we move on that? We have to move.
It's a recommend.
Recommendation. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
All right. Those in favor say aye. Aye. We are now in executive session. We'll regain at 9:10. Thank you. Okay. We are back in regular session, and we have the need to go back into executive session, so.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss negotiations with the Professional Relations Committee of the Dodge City Community College Faculty Association for the 2017-2018 school year contract pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B3. The open meeting to resume in this location at 9:20 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, college attorney, the provost, vice president Herman, and Dean Hawarda should be included in the executive session.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we go to executive.
I second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now in executive session.
Unless they do.
Okay, we are now back in regular session, and there is no action to be taken, so we will move into the next executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss a grand jury subpoena and related matters pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B2. The open meeting to resume in this location at 9:30 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the college attorney, the president, and the provost should be included in the executive session.
All right. So, motion?
I move that we go to executive session for.
Second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. We're executives now. We're in executive session, and thank you for the fans.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, we're back in regular session, and let's take a quick 5-minute break. And, oh, there was no action taken. Sorry. Okay, we are back in session with the need to go into another executive session, so I'll turn that over to Attorney Curbs.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss an employee contract pursuant to the personnel exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting to resume at this location, at 9:45 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president and the college attorney should be included in the executive session.
All right, motion?
So moved.
Okay, second? Kathy? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session. All right, we are back in session, and there is a recommendation from legal counsel.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend the board approve a fourth addendum to employment contract for the president, Dr. Harold E. Nolte. The fourth addendum would increase Dr. Nolte's annual salary of $168,504 to $171,874.08, effective July 2017. This is a 2% increase in salary, consistent with the 2% increase the board voted for other non-faculty employees in January.
There's a recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay. Duly noted. Okay, we will move on to item number 4, another executive session.
Okay, turn the page. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss confidential employer information pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting to resume in this location at 10:05 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the college attorney, the president, the provost, and vice president Tamont should be included in the executive session.
All right, you've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are now in executive session again. Okay.
That's why it's gonna be safe.
All right, we are back in session. And there was no action taken on that item. And we will need to go back into executive session to discuss our last executive session discussion. So,
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss a pending Kansas Human Rights Commission complaint pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B2. The open meeting to resume in this location at 10:15 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, college attorney, and vice president Tamont should be included in the executive session.
the motion?
I move.
Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. The three over there like.
They're like, what?
Arrowhead West.
Okay.
She's the
We
HR
are now
person.
back in regular session. There was no action taken in executive session, so that is the end of our agenda, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.